A billionaire sits alone at a candlelit table, waiting for no one. A broke woman stumbles in, desperate for a job interview that doesn't exist. She sits down by mistake. He doesn't correct her. What happens next will destroy reputations, shatter families, and force two broken people to choose between safety and something terrifyingly real. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Ethan Cole hated restaurants like this. Too much mood lighting. Too many couples leaning across tables like they were sharing state secrets instead of mediocre pasta. The kind of place where the candles cost more than the food and everyone pretended the prices were reasonable. He checked his watch, 7:43. The reservation was for 7:30, but that didn't matter because there was no one coming. There never had been. His assistant Maya had made the booking 3 weeks ago during one of her periodic campaigns to get him back out there, as if dating were a recreational sport he'd simply stopped practicing. "You need to meet someone, Ethan. Lily needs a mother figure." He'd told Maya to cancel it. Apparently she'd forgotten, or ignored him. With Maya, it was hard to tell the difference. Now he was stuck at a table for two, surrounded by anniversary dinners and proposals in progress, drinking overpriced scotch and wondering if he could leave without the staff thinking he'd been stood up, which he hadn't. You couldn't get stood up if you never invited anyone in the first place. The irony wasn't lost on him. "Sir, can I get you anything else while you wait?" The waiter hovered at a professional distance, his face carefully neutral. Ethan recognized that look. Years of running luxury hotels had taught him to read service staff like scripts. This one was thinking, another rich guy getting dumped. Happens every week. "I'm not waiting," Ethan said. "Cancel the second entree." "Of course, sir." The waiter disappeared. Ethan pulled out his phone, scrolling through emails he'd already read twice. Quarterly reports. Contractor bids for the Miami renovation. A passive-aggressive note from his ex-wife's lawyer about Christmas custody arrangements, even though Christmas was 8 months away. He should leave. Go home. Check on Lily. She was with the nanny tonight, probably already asleep, but he could at least be in the same house as his daughter, instead of sitting here like an idiot. He was reaching for his wallet when the door opened. A woman stumbled in. Not walked. Stumbled, like she'd been pushed by the wind or her own momentum or sheer desperation. She wore a gray blazer that had seen better years, probably pulled from the back of a thrift store rack. Her shoes were scuffed black flats that didn't match the blazer. Her dark hair was pulled into a ponytail that had started to come loose, strands falling around her face in a way that would have looked artful on someone trying for that effect, but just looked frazzled on her. She stopped just inside the entrance, scanning the restaurant with wide eyes. The hostess approached. "Do you have a reservation?" I'm meeting someone." The woman's voice was quiet, nervous. She clutched a folder against her chest like a shield. "Mr. Patterson? Table for two?" The hostess checked her tablet. "I don't see a Patterson." "Are you sure? I got an email. It said 7:30 at Marcello's." "This is Marcella's." The woman's face went pale. "What?" "Marcella's. Not Marcello's. That's 2 blocks north." "Oh my God." She pressed a hand to her forehead. "I'm so sorry. Thank you." She turned to leave, moving fast, and that's when she tripped. Not dramatically, not movie-style sprawling across the floor, just a half stumble over her own feet, the kind of thing that happens when you're moving too quickly and your body can't keep up with your panic. She caught herself on the back of a chair. Ethan's chair. Their eyes met. Hers were brown, dark brown, almost black in the candlelight. There was something unsettling about them, not because they were unusual, but because they were too exposed, like she hadn't learned yet how to hide what she was thinking. Right now, she was thinking she wanted to disappear. "I'm so sorry," she said again, letting go of his chair like it had burned her. "You're fine." But she wasn't fine. She was already backing away, still clutching that folder, her face flushed red. "Excuse me," Ethan called. She froze. He didn't know why he said it, didn't know what he was going to say next, but something about the way she looked, like a person barely holding it together, running to an interview at the wrong restaurant, made him speak before thinking. "You're looking for Marcello's?" She nodded, wary. 2 blocks north, across from the Starbucks with the green awning." "Thank you." Her voice was barely above a whisper. She turned again. Wait. This time when she looked back, there was something else in her expression. Suspicion, maybe? Or just exhaustion. Like she was too tired to figure out what he wanted and too broke to afford whatever it might cost. Your interview, Ethan said. What time? 7:30. He checked his watch. It's 7:46. If you run, you might make it, but you'll show up sweating and out of breath. Her shoulders sagged. I know. Or, Ethan heard himself say, you could sit down for a minute, catch your breath, show up at 8 looking composed instead of desperate. She stared at him like he'd just suggested something illegal. I'm serious, he said. You've got the wrong restaurant, but I've got the right table. It's empty anyway. I can't. You can. Chair's already here. Wine's decent. And if you walk in there looking like you just ran a marathon, they're going to think you're unreliable. That landed. He saw it in the way her jaw tightened. She looked at the door, then at him, then at the empty chair across from his. I don't even know you, she said. Ethan Cole. He gestured to the chair. Now you do. For a long moment she didn't move. He thought she was going to bolt anyway, sprint out the door and show up to her interview dizzy and disheveled and probably blow whatever chance she had. But then she took a step forward, and another, and then she sat down, not relaxed. Perched on the edge of the seat like she might need to run at any second, her folder still pressed against her stomach. I'm Nora, she said. Nora Hayes. Nice to meet you, Nora. She didn't respond, just sat there, vibrating with tension. The waiter reappeared, perfectly timed. Will the lady be joining you for dinner? Ethan looked at Nora. She looked horrified. Just water, she said quickly. I'm not staying. Bring her the menu anyway, Ethan said. The waiter nodded and disappeared. Nora shot Ethan a look that could have stripped paint. I can't afford this place. I didn't ask you to. Then why? Because you look like you need 5 minutes to breathe, and I have a table I'm not using. That's it. No strings, no expectations. She studied him, those two honest eyes cutting straight through every layer of politeness he usually wore like armor. Why are you here alone? She asked. The question caught him off guard. Most people wouldn't ask. They'd assume he was waiting for someone, or they'd politely ignore it, or they'd make some joke about being stood up. But Nora just asked. My assistant made a reservation I didn't want, Ethan said. I forgot to cancel. So you came anyway? Apparently. That's stupid. He laughed. Actually laughed. Yeah, it is. The waiter returned with a menu and a glass of water. Nora took the water, but didn't touch the menu. You should at least look at it, Ethan said. Pretend you're considering something. I'm not hungry. When was the last time you ate? She hesitated. Lunch. What'd you have? Coffee. That's not lunch. It is if you're busy. Ethan pushed the menu toward her. Look at it. You don't have to order. Just look so the waiter stops hovering. With visible reluctance, she opened it. Her eyes went wide. $42 for a salad? It's got truffle oil. That doesn't make it worth $42. I didn't say it did. She closed the menu and pushed it back. I really can't stay. I just needed a second to... She stopped, swallowed hard. To stop shaking. He saw it then. The tremor in her hands, the tightness around her mouth. This wasn't just interview nerves. This was something deeper. How bad do you need this job? He asked. She met his eyes. Bad enough that I'm sitting here talking to a stranger instead of running out the door like a normal person would. What's the job? Assistant manager at a hotel. It's not glamorous, but it pays $18 an hour and includes benefits, and I need both. Which hotel? The Sanderson. Do you know it? He knew it. Mid-range property, decent reputation, nothing special. The kind of place that catered to business travelers and budget-conscious families. He'd stayed there once, maybe twice, back when he was still climbing instead of sitting at the top. I know it, he said. Well, they're probably interviewing a dozen people who didn't show up to the wrong restaurant. She checked her phone. I have 12 minutes. Then you should eat something first. I told you. Nora, when was the last time you ate something that wasn't coffee? She bit her lip. Yesterday, dinner. What'd you have? Ramen. The cheap kind. 11 cents a pack. Something shifted in his chest. He knew that meal. He'd lived on it for 6 months during college, back when he was working 3 jobs and sleeping 4 hours a night and pretending he wasn't one missed paycheck away from dropping out. Order something, he said. I can't. I'm buying. It's not negotiable. You don't even know me. I know you're about to walk into an interview on an empty stomach after eating ramen for dinner and coffee for lunch. That's not a person. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Her eyes welled up. She didn't cry, didn't let the tears fall, just sat there with them pooling at the edges, her jaw clenched so tight he could see the muscle jumping. I'm fine, she said. You're not. You don't get to decide that. You're right, I don't. But I can decide whether to let you walk out of here hungry when there's food right in front of you, and I'm offering to pay for it. So pick something, anything. I don't care if it's the $42 salad or just bread. But eat. For a moment he thought she was going to leave anyway, just stand up and walk out and prove that pride was stronger than hunger. But then she opened the menu again. Her hands were still shaking. The pasta, she said quietly, the one with the tomatoes and basil. Ethan flagged down the waiter. She'll have the capellini pomodoro, and bring some bread while we wait. The waiter nodded and left. Nora sat there staring at the table. Thank you, she said. It sounded like it hurt. Don't. Don't what? Don't thank me like I just saved your life. It's pasta. It's more than that. He wanted to argue, but she was right. They both knew it. The bread came first, fresh, warm, with olive oil and balsamic for dipping. Nora ate like someone who'd forgotten what hunger felt like until the food was in front of her. Not fast, not desperate, just focused, methodical, like she was rationing even this small mercy. Tell me about the interview, Ethan said. She swallowed, took a sip of water. What about it? Why this job? Why the Sanderson? Because they're hiring and I'm desperate. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Then tell me why you're desperate. She set down the bread, looked at him with those two honest eyes. My mom's sick, cancer, stage 3. She can't work. My brother's 17, still in school. I'm the only one who can work right now, and the jobs I have don't cover what we need. So I need this one. That's it. That's the whole story. No drama, no embellishment, just facts delivered like bullets. What jobs do you have? Ethan asked. 3. Mornings I clean offices. Afternoons I do data entry from home. Nights I work at a grocery store stocking shelves. But none of them have benefits, and my mom's medications are $400 a month, even with the discount program, and we're behind on rent, and... She stopped, shook her head. You don't need to hear this. Maybe I do. Why? Because I asked. She studied him again, that same cutting look. You're not a good person, she said. He blinked. Excuse me? Good people don't sit alone in expensive restaurants waiting for nobody. They don't buy pasta for strangers. They don't ask questions like they care when they don't. What makes you think I don't care? Because people with money don't care about people without it. That's how the world works. It should have pissed him off, should have made him defensive, ready to list all the charities he donated to, all the scholarships his foundation funded, all the proof that he wasn't what she thought. But he didn't, because she was right, not about him specifically, but about the world, about the distance between people like him and people like her, and the way that distance made caring optional instead of automatic. You're not wrong, he said. She looked surprised. What? You're not wrong. Most people with money don't care. They donate to feel better about themselves. They volunteer for tax breaks. They help because it's easy, not because it's necessary. So why are you here? Honestly, I don't know. The pasta arrived. Nora looked at it like it might disappear if she blinked. Eat, Ethan said. She did. He watched her. This woman who'd stumbled into the wrong restaurant and ended up at his table and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Curiosity. Not the business kind. Not the strategic assessment of assets and liabilities. Just genuine human curiosity about who she was and how she'd ended up here and what she saw when she looked at the world through those brutally honest eyes. What did you study? He asked. She glanced up mid-bite. What? In school, before life got complicated. What did you want to do? Hospitality management. Why? Because hotels are weird places. People go there when they're traveling or celebrating or running away from something. And for that little window of time, they need to feel safe. I like that idea. Making a place where people could feel safe. Something in her voice shifted when she said it. Something softer, almost wistful. Did you finish your degree? Ethan asked. 2 years. Then my dad died and everything fell apart. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was 4 years ago. That doesn't mean it stops hurting. She set down her fork. You talk like someone who knows. My mom died when I was 12. Cancer, like yours. I watched her waste away for 2 years while my dad worked himself to death trying to pay for treatments that didn't work. So yeah, I know. Nora's expression shifted. Not pity. Something else. Recognition, maybe. I'm sorry, she said. Don't be. It was 20 years ago. She almost smiled. That doesn't mean it stops hurting. He smiled back. Touché. They sat in silence for a moment. Not uncomfortable, just quiet. Then Nora checked her phone and went pale. I have 6 minutes. She stood up so fast her chair scraped backward. I'm sorry, I have to go. Thank you for the food. Thank you. She was halfway to the door before Ethan called after her. Nora. She stopped. Turned. You're going to do great, he said. She looked at him like she wanted to believe that. Like maybe, for just a second, she did. Then she was gone. Ethan sat alone at the table, staring at her half-finished pasta. The waiter appeared. Will that be all, sir? Yeah. He handed over his card. And add a 20% tip. Of course. Ethan signed the check, left the restaurant, and sat in his car for 10 minutes before driving home. He didn't know why he'd stopped her. Didn't know why he'd bought her dinner, or asked about her life, or told her things he never told anyone. But he knew one thing. He wanted to see her again. Well, 3 days later, Ethan was in his office reviewing contracts when Maya knocked. You have a minute? Depends. Are you here to ambush me into another fake dinner reservation? She grinned, unapologetic. That was for your own good. I'm firing you. No, you're not. But speaking of that dinner, how'd it go? There was no dinner. There was never going to be a dinner. So you sat there alone like a sad divorced dad? I'm not divorced. I'm widowed. You're divorced. Melissa's alive and remarried. Emotionally widowed. Maya rolled her eyes. Anyway, I'm not here about that. I'm here about the Sanderson project. Ethan looked up. What about it? You wanted updates on staffing, right? They just hired a new assistant manager. Starts Monday. And I thought you'd want to know since you've been weirdly obsessed with that property lately. He hadn't been obsessed. He'd been attentive. The Sanderson was one of his older acquisitions, a property he'd bought 6 years ago and mostly ignored in favor of flashier investments. But lately, he'd been thinking about it, about what it could be if someone actually cared. Who'd they hire? He asked. Maya checked her tablet. Nora Hayes, 29, 2 years of college, management experience at a budget chain. References say she's reliable, hardworking, and apparently she aced the interview even though she showed up 8 minutes late. Ethan went very still. What? Maya asked. Nothing. That's good. She sounds qualified. She sounds overqualified for what they're paying, but whatever. Anyway, I'm heading out. Lily's recital is at 6. You're going, right? Of course. Good. Wear the blue tie. She likes that one. Maya left. Ethan stared at the name on her tablet. Nora Hayes. He could leave it alone. Pretend the dinner never happened. Let her work at the Sanderson and never cross paths with him again. But he didn't want to. He picked up his phone and called the property manager. David, it's Ethan. I'm coming by the Sanderson next week. I want a full tour, and I want to meet the new assistant manager. David Chen met Ethan in the lobby of the Sanderson on a Tuesday morning, looking nervous in the way property managers always did when the owner showed up unannounced. Mr. Cole, I wasn't expecting you until Thursday. Plans changed. Ethan glanced around the lobby. Dated furniture, carpet that had been beige once but was now closer to gray, a front desk that screamed 1990s renovation budget. How's occupancy? 72%, up from last quarter. That's not good enough. I know. We're working on it. Ethan didn't respond. He was scanning the space, taking mental notes. The lighting was too harsh. The check-in process looked slow. A family stood near the elevators with luggage, looking confused about which way to go. "Where's your new assistant manager?" Ethan asked. "Nora? She's in the back office doing inventory. Want me to get her?" "No. I'll find her." David blinked. "You want to just walk back there?" "That a problem?" "No, sir. It's just, we usually coordinate these things." "Consider it coordinated." Ethan walked past the front desk before David could protest further. He knew the layout. He'd bought this property 6 years ago, toured it once, and mostly forgotten about it. The back offices were through a service corridor behind the elevators, past the housekeeping storage and the employee break room. He found her in a windowless room surrounded by boxes. She didn't see him at first. She was crouched on the floor checking items off a clipboard, her hair pulled back in the same messy ponytail from the restaurant. She wore black slacks and a white button-down that was too big in the shoulders. The Sanderson name tag pinned to her chest read, "Nora, Assistant Manager." Ethan knocked on the doorframe. She looked up. Her eyes went wide. "You." "Me." She stood up fast, nearly dropping the clipboard. "What are you doing here?" "I own the building." The color drained from her face. "You own what?" "The Sanderson. I own it, along with 43 other properties in 12 states. Nora stared at him like he'd just announced he was an alien. "You're Ethan Cole. The Ethan Cole." "Apparently." "Oh my God." She pressed a hand to her forehead. "I called you a bad person." "You did." "I told you people with money don't care about people without it." "Also true." "And you just sat there and bought me pasta." "The pasta was good." She looked like she might pass out. Ethan stepped into the room, hands in his pockets, trying to look less like a billionaire CEO and more like the guy from the restaurant. "Relax," he said. "I'm not here to fire you." "Then why are you here?" Good question. He'd been asking himself that for 3 days. "I'm touring the property," he said. "Checking in on operations. You happen to work here, that's all." She didn't believe him. He could see it in the way her jaw tightened, the way her fingers gripped the clipboard like a weapon. "Mr. Cole, Ethan." "Mr. Cole," she repeated deliberately. "If this is some kind of charity thing, I don't want it. I got this job on my own. I earned it." "I know you did." "Then why are you really here?" He should have had an answer ready. Should have prepared some corporate line about operational efficiency or investment strategy. But standing there in that cramped office with her staring him down, he couldn't think of a single convincing lie. "Because I wanted to see if you got the job," he said. She blinked. "What?" "At the restaurant. You said you needed it. I wanted to know if you got it." "So you came here? In person?" "I was in the area." "Your office is downtown. This is 20 miles away." "I like the drive." She shook her head, something between disbelief and anger crossing her face. "You can't do this." "Do what?" "Show up at my job. Act like we're friends. I don't need a rich guy playing savior because he feels guilty about having money." That stung more than it should have. "I'm not playing anything," Ethan said. "Then what do you call this? Curiosity?" "About what?" "You." The word hung between them. Nora looked away first, her cheeks flushing. "This is inappropriate," she said quietly. "Probably. I could lose my job." "Not if I have anything to say about it." "That's exactly the problem." She met his eyes again. "You have all the power here. You own the building. You own my paycheck. And I'm nobody. So whatever this is, it can't happen." Ethan felt something crack in his chest. Not breaking, just shifting. "You're right," he said. She looked surprised. "You're right," he repeated. "This is inappropriate. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have looked you up or tracked you down or shown up at your job like some stalker." "I'm sorry." He turned to leave. "Wait." He stopped. Nora was chewing her lip, that same nervous gesture from the restaurant. "Why did you really come?" Ethan turned back. "Honest answer?" "Please." Because for 3 days I couldn't stop thinking about what you said. About hotels being places where people feel safe. I've been running this company for 8 years, and I've never once thought about it that way. I think about revenue per room, occupancy rates, star ratings. But safe? He shook his head. That never crossed my mind. Nora's expression softened slightly. And then I found out you worked here, Ethan continued, at one of my properties that I've been ignoring because it's not profitable enough to care about. And I thought, maybe you could show me what I've been missing. Show you what? How to make this place matter. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she set down the clipboard. You want me to tell you how to run your own hotel? I want you to tell me how it should feel. That's insane. Probably. You could hire consultants, designers, people with actual degrees. I have those, they give me spreadsheets. I want something else. What? The truth. Nora laughed. Not a happy sound. More like disbelief made audible. You want the truth? Fine. This place is dying. The furniture's ancient. The carpet smells like cigarettes even though smoking's been banned for 10 years. The water pressure in half the rooms is terrible. The breakfast buffet is sad. And the staff is overworked and underpaid and nobody cares because it's just another job. Ethan pulled out his phone and started typing. What are you doing? Nora asked. Taking notes? You're serious. Completely. She watched him type for a moment, her expression unreadable. Why do you care? She asked quietly. Because I used to sleep in places like this. Before the money. Before everything. And I remember what it felt like to walk into a cheap hotel after driving all day and just want to feel like a person instead of a transaction. I remember how much it mattered when someone at the front desk smiled like they meant it, or when the room was actually clean, or when the bed didn't feel like sleeping on cardboard. He looked up from his phone. I forgot that. Somewhere along the way, I forgot. Nora's eyes were doing that thing again. Too honest, too exposed. This is still weird, she said. I know. And inappropriate. Acknowledged. And if anyone finds out the owner is personally asking me for advice, they're going to think I'm sleeping with you. Ethan hadn't thought of that. The words hit him like cold water. You're right, he said. I didn't consider but I'll do it anyway. He stopped. What? I'll help on one condition. Name it. You actually listen, not just nod and smile and then do whatever your consultants say. You actually make changes. Deal. She held out her hand. Ethan shook it. Her grip was stronger than he expected. When do we start? Nora asked. Now. I'm in the middle of inventory. David can finish it. Give me the tour. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but if this blows up in my face, I'm blaming you. Fair enough. They started in the lobby. Nora walked him through every problem like she'd been cataloging them for weeks. The furniture arrangement created dead space. The lighting made everything look institutional. The music was too generic. The smell was stale air and old carpet mixed with whatever cleaning product housekeeping used. People walk in here and immediately want to leave, Nora said. It doesn't feel welcoming. It feels like a place you end up because you have to, not because you want to. How do we fix it? Warmth. Real plants, not fake ones. Better lighting. Maybe warm white instead of fluorescent. Comfortable seating that actually invites people to sit. And for God's sake, get rid of this carpet. Ethan typed everything. Nora watched him with a mix of skepticism and something else. Hope, maybe. They moved to the breakfast area. Lukewarm coffee, rubbery scrambled eggs. Toast that tasted like cardboard. This is the first thing guests experience in the morning, Nora said, and we're basically telling them we don't care if they enjoy it. What would you do differently? Fresh fruit, real eggs, not powdered, coffee that doesn't taste like battery acid. And maybe, I know this sounds crazy, but maybe someone working the breakfast area who actually talks to guests, asks how they slept, makes them feel noticed. That's not crazy. It costs money. I have money. She looked at him. You're really going to do this? Why wouldn't I? Because it's expensive and the return on investment probably doesn't justify it, and I'm just some assistant manager who's been here for 5 days. Or, Ethan said, you're someone who actually understands what this place could be. and maybe that's worth more than a consultant's report. They spent 2 hours going through the property, guest rooms, hallways, the fitness center that had one broken treadmill and weights from 1987, the pool with cracked tiles and cloudy water. Nora didn't hold back. Every flaw, every missed opportunity, every way the Sanderson was failing its guests, she laid it all out with the kind of brutal honesty most employees would never risk. And Ethan loved it. Not the criticism, the passion, the way she talked about hospitality, like it mattered, like it was more than just clean sheets and checkout times. They ended up in the empty conference room on the second floor. Nora sat on the edge of the table, exhausted but animated. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know I'm being harsh. Don't apologize. This is exactly what I needed to hear. Most bosses hate being told their property sucks. I'm not most bosses." She smiled, actually smiled. It changed her whole face. "No," she said. "I guess you're not." Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Maya, reminding him about a 3 o'clock meeting downtown. "I have to go," he said. Nora nodded, sliding off the table. "Thanks for listening. I mean it. Thank you for being honest." They walked back to the lobby together. David was hovering near the front desk, trying very hard to look like he wasn't dying of curiosity. At the door, Ethan turned back. "I'm going to send a team here next week. Designers, contractors, the works. They'll want your input." "My input? You're the one who knows what this place needs. I trust you." She looked stunned. "You barely know me." "I know enough." He left before she could argue. In the car, Maya called immediately. "How'd it go?" "Fine." "Fine? You spent 2 hours at a mid-tier property you've ignored for 6 years and all I get is fine?" "It was productive." "Ethan, what's going on?" He could tell her. Should tell her, probably. Maya had been his assistant for 5 years. She knew more about his life than anyone except maybe his daughter. But he didn't know how to explain this. Didn't know how to put into words the way Nora had made him see his own business differently in the span of 2 hours. "I'm trying something new," he said finally. "Does this something new have anything to do with the assistant manager you specifically asked to meet?" "Maybe." Maya was quiet for a moment, then, "Be careful." "I'm always careful." "No, you're always controlled. That's different. Careful means you think about consequences. You just do whatever makes sense and deal with the fallout later." "Your point?" "My point is that you're a billionaire CEO meeting privately with an employee at a property you own. Even if your intentions are completely innocent, it looks bad. And if she's as smart as her resume suggests, she knows that." "She does." "And you're doing it anyway?" "I'm not doing anything. I'm renovating a property. She happens to have good ideas." "Right, and I'm sure that's all it is." Ethan didn't answer. "Just be careful," Maya repeated, "for both your sakes." She hung up. Ethan sat in traffic, staring at nothing. Maya was right. He was being reckless, showing up at Nora's job, spending 2 hours alone with her, making promises about renovations that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars based on a conversation and a gut feeling. But he couldn't shake the memory of her face when she talked about making people feel safe. The way her voice changed, the way she lit up. He wanted to see that again. Over the next 3 weeks, Ethan became a regular presence at the Sanderson. He didn't announce his visits, didn't coordinate with David, just showed up, usually in the morning, and found Nora wherever she was working. Sometimes they talked about the renovation. The designers had submitted initial plans and Nora had opinions about everything. The lobby layout, the color scheme, the type of coffee maker for the breakfast area. Other times, they just talked. He learned that her brother Danny wanted to be a doctor but probably couldn't afford college, that her mom had been a teacher before getting sick, that Nora had once wanted to open her own bed and breakfast in Vermont, but gave up that dream when her dad died. She learned that Ethan's daughter Lily was 6 and obsessed with dinosaurs, that he'd started his first business at 19 selling refurbished laptops out of his dorm room, that he still had nightmares about the year after his mom died when he and his dad lived in their car. They never talked about the fact that he was a billionaire and she made $18 an hour. Never addressed the power imbalance or the weirdness of their situation. They just talked. And somewhere in those conversations, something shifted. It happened gradually. Small moments that didn't mean anything individually, but added up to something neither of them could ignore. The way Nora laughed at his terrible jokes. The way Ethan found excuses to stay longer than necessary. The way they both started looking forward to Tuesdays and Thursdays, the days he usually showed up. The way she'd started calling him Ethan instead of Mr. Cole. One morning, Ethan arrived to find Nora in the lobby arguing with a contractor about the carpet installation. "I don't care what the schedule says. You can't rip up the entire lobby floor during check-in hours. Guests are literally walking through here." The contractor, a thick-necked guy named Rick, crossed his arms. "We're on a timeline." "Then adjust the timeline. Start at 6 a.m. or work at night. But you're not doing this now." "Lady, I don't take orders from assistant managers." Then take them from me." Everyone turned. Ethan stood near the entrance, hands in his pockets. Rick's attitude changed instantly. "Mr. Cole, I didn't know you were—" "She's right," Ethan said. "Reschedule for early morning or late evening. Guest experience comes first." Rick nodded, suddenly cooperative. "Yes, sir. We'll adjust." He left. Nora turned to Ethan. "You didn't have to do that." He was being an ass. "I could have handled it." "I know. I just didn't feel like watching you waste energy on someone who wasn't going to listen anyway." She almost smiled. "Thanks." They grabbed coffee from the newly installed espresso machine, one of Nora's suggestions, and sat in the empty conference room. "How's your mom?" Ethan asked. Nora's expression tightened. "Not great. She started a new treatment last week. Makes her really sick." "I'm sorry." "It's fine. We knew it would be rough." "That doesn't make it easier." "No." She stared into her coffee. "It doesn't." They sat in silence for a moment. "Danny's birthday is next week," Nora said. "He'll be 18. You doing anything special?" "Can't afford special. Probably just dinner at home. Maybe a cake if I can swing it." Ethan thought about his daughter's last birthday, the party at the indoor trampoline place, the custom cake shaped like a T-Rex, the $100 gift bags for kids he'd never met. "He's lucky to have you," Ethan said. "I'm not doing anything special, just surviving." "That's more than most people manage." She looked at him. "Is that what you did? After your mom died?" "Pretty much. My dad worked 3 jobs. I worked 2. We survived. That was the whole goal." "Do you miss him? Your dad? Every day?" "How'd he die?" "Heart attack 5 years ago. He was 61, but his body was about 80 from all the years of not sleeping and eating gas station food and pretending he was fine." Nora reached across the table and touched his hand. Just briefly. Just enough. "I'm sorry," she said. "Me too." They sat there, hands almost touching, neither of them moving. Then Nora's phone buzzed. She pulled away, checking the screen. "Housekeeping emergency pipe burst in 304. "Go. I'll be here." She left. Ethan sat alone in the conference room, staring at the spot where her hand had been. This was getting complicated. That afternoon, Ethan called Maya from his car. "I need you to do something for me. That's literally my job. Find out everything you can about treatment options for stage 3 cancer. Specifically," he paused, "specifically what's available that most people can't afford." Maya was quiet for a moment. "Is this about Lily?" "No. A friend." "You don't have friends." "Then someone I care about." "Ethan, just do it, please." "Okay. I'll have something by tomorrow." She hung up. Ethan sat there, knowing he was crossing a line he couldn't uncross. But he didn't care. The next Tuesday, he found Nora in her office, buried in paperwork. "You look exhausted," he said. "Triple shift yesterday. One of the night clerks called in sick." "You worked all night?" "Someone had to." "Nora, don't. I know what you're going to say. That I'm overworking myself, that I need rest. But my mom's medication costs $400 a month, and we're already 2 months behind on rent, and Danny needs new shoes, and I don't have the luxury of rest." Ethan pulled an envelope from his jacket and set it on her desk. "What's that?" she asked. "Information about a clinical trial at Johns Hopkins. Experimental treatment for stage 3 cancer. It's free. All costs covered." Nora stared at the envelope like it might explode. "How do you know about my mom's diagnosis?" "You told me, at the restaurant." "I said she was sick. I didn't say stage 3. "You mentioned it last week." "No, I didn't." Silence. Nora picked up the envelope and threw it back at him. I don't want your charity. It's not charity, it's information. Information you researched specifically for me. That's charity. It's a clinical trial. She'd be helping them research new treatments. Stop. Nora stood up, her face flushed. Just stop. I can't do this. Do what? This. Whatever this is. You showing up here all the time, asking about my life. Giving me advice about the hotel like we're partners. Researching my mom's cancer. It's too much. I'm trying to help. Why? Why do you care? Because... Ethan stopped. He didn't have a good answer, or rather, he had an answer he wasn't ready to say out loud. Nora's eyes were bright, not with tears, with anger. You know what people are saying? She asked quietly. What people? The staff. They think we're sleeping together. Ethan felt like he'd been punched. What? They think that's why you keep showing up, why you're spending all this money on renovations, why you ask for me specifically. That's ridiculous. Is it? You're a billionaire. I'm an assistant manager. You've been here twice a week for a month. We disappear into conference rooms alone. What else are they supposed to think? The truth. That we're working on improving the property. Nobody believes that. Then they're idiots. Maybe. Or maybe they're right to be suspicious. She crossed her arms. What do you want from me, Ethan? The question hung between them. I don't know, he admitted. That's not good enough. I know. Then figure it out. Because I can't keep doing this. I can't keep wondering if every conversation is going to cost me my job or my reputation or whatever's left of my dignity. She walked past him, heading for the door. Nora, wait. She stopped but didn't turn around. I'll back off, Ethan said. You're right. This isn't fair to you. I'll finish the renovation and then I'll leave you alone. Good. She left. Ethan stood in the empty office, holding the envelope about the clinical trial, feeling like an idiot. He'd pushed too hard, gotten too involved, crossed lines he had no business crossing. Maya had warned him. He should have listened. That night, Ethan sat in his home office, staring at blueprints for the Sanderson renovation and seeing nothing. Lily knocked on the door. Daddy? He looked up. His daughter stood there in dinosaur pajamas, holding her favorite stuffed triceratops. Hey, sweetheart. What are you doing up? Can't sleep? Bad dream? No, just thinking. Ethan patted his lap. Lily climbed up, fitting perfectly against his chest the way she had since she was born. What are you thinking about? He asked. Do you think Mommy misses me? The question hurt. Melissa saw Lily twice a month, usually for a weekend, but she'd canceled the last 3 visits because of her new husband's work schedule. I think she misses you very much, Ethan said carefully. Then why doesn't she call? Because grown-ups are complicated, and sometimes they forget what's important. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then, do you forget what's important? Sometimes. But you always remind me. She smiled against his shoulder. Good. They sat there in silence, Ethan holding his daughter and trying not to think about how badly he'd screwed things up with Nora. Daddy? Yeah? Are you sad? A little. Why? Because I hurt someone's feelings, by accident. Did you say sorry? Not yet. You should. That's what you always tell me. Out of the mouths of 6-year-olds. You're right, Ethan said. I should. But when he showed up at the Sanderson the next morning, David met him in the lobby with bad news. Nora called in sick, first time since she started. Ethan's stomach dropped. Is she okay? I don't know. She just said she wasn't feeling well. He tried calling. It went straight to voicemail. He tried texting. No response. By Thursday, she still hadn't come back. Ethan sat in a meeting downtown, half listening to quarterly projections, wondering if he'd destroyed the first real connection he'd felt with another person in years. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Danny. Nora's brother. Can you come to County General Hospital? Room 412. It's important. Ethan was out the door before anyone could ask questions. County General smelled like disinfectant and desperation. Ethan took the stairs to the 4th floor 2 at a time, his heart hammering against his ribs in a way that had nothing to do with physical exertion. Room 412 was at the end of a long hallway. Through the small window in the door, he could see Nora sitting in a chair beside a hospital bed, her head in her hands. He knocked softly. She looked up. Her eyes were red, swollen. She'd been crying for hours, maybe days. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was hoarse. "Danny texted me." "He what?" She stood up fast, moving to block his view of the bed. "He had no right. Nora, I asked him to." A young man appeared from the bathroom, 17, maybe 18, dark hair like his sister's, tired eyes that looked older than they should. "I found your number in her phone, under Do Not Call, which seemed like exactly the person we needed to call." "Danny, you can't just—" "Yes, I can, because you won't." Danny turned to Ethan. "She's been here for 3 days, hasn't slept, barely eaten. And she won't let me call anyone for help because she's convinced she has to do everything herself." Ethan looked past them both to the woman in the bed, small, frail, connected to machines. Her skin had a grayish tint that Ethan recognized from his own mother's final months. "How bad?" he asked quietly. Nora's face crumpled. "They're saying weeks, maybe a month." The words hit him like a physical blow. He'd known it was serious, known the cancer was advanced, but hearing it said out loud, watching Nora try to hold herself together while her world collapsed. "I'm so sorry," he said. "You should go." Nora wiped her eyes roughly. "This isn't your problem." "I'm not leaving." "Ethan, I'm not leaving," he repeated. "So you can either let me help or you can waste energy fighting me. Your choice." She stared at him, something between fury and relief in her eyes. Danny stepped forward. "I'm going to get coffee. You want anything?" Nora shook her head. "I'll take a black coffee," Ethan said, pulling out his wallet. "Here, I got it." Danny waved him off and left. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Ethan moved to the chair on the other side of the bed, sat down without asking permission. "What happened?" he asked. Nora sank back into her chair. "She collapsed at home, Tuesday morning. I found her on the kitchen floor. They said the cancer spread to her liver and her lungs, and—" Her voice broke. "There's nothing they can do." "What about the clinical trial?" "Too late. She's not eligible anymore." "There has to be something." "There isn't." Nora's voice was flat, dead. "We're past treatments, past hope. Now we're just waiting." Ethan looked at the woman in the bed. She was sleeping, her breathing shallow and labored. He tried to imagine what Nora saw when she looked at her mother. Not this frail version, the person she used to be. "Tell me about her," he said. Nora glanced up. "What?" "Your mom. Tell me who she was, before all this." "Why?" "Because I want to know." For a long moment, Nora didn't speak. Then, so quietly, he almost missed it. She taught second grade. For 23 years, every year she spent her own money on supplies because the school didn't have enough. She knew every kid's name, every parent. She went to their baseball games and dance recitals and birthday parties because she said teaching wasn't just about reading and math, it was about showing up. Ethan listened, watching Nora's face soften as she talked. "After my dad died, she worked 2 jobs. Teaching during the day, tutoring at night. Never complained. Never acted like it was a burden. Just kept showing up, for me, for Danny, for her students." Nora's voice cracked. "And now she's dying in a hospital room that smells like bleach, and I can't even afford a private room so she doesn't have to share space with a stranger." "What room is this?" "Semi-private, but the other bed's empty right now, so I'll take care of it." "No." "Nora, no." She looked at him with those 2 honest eyes. "I know you want to help. I know you have the money and the connections, and you could probably make this whole thing easier with a phone call. But I can't let you do that." "Why not?" "Because then it becomes about you. Your money, your guilt, or your pity, or whatever it is that makes you want to fix things for people you barely know. And my mom deserves better than that. She deserves to be more than someone's charity project." The words stung, but they were fair. "You're right," Ethan said. "I'm sorry." Nora looked surprised. "I'm sorry," he repeated. "For pushing. for showing up uninvited, for trying to solve your problems like they're business deals instead of your life. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. But I'm not going anywhere. So you can yell at me or ignore me or throw me out, but I'm staying. Why? Because you shouldn't have to do this alone. I'm not alone. I have Danny. Danny's 17 and scared and trying to be strong for you the same way you're trying to be strong for him. But someone needs to be strong for both of you. So let it be me. Nora's face did something complicated, like she wanted to argue but didn't have the energy left to fight. Just for today, she said finally. You can stay for today. Deal. Danny came back with coffee. The three of them sat in that hospital room, not talking much, just existing in the same space while machines beeped and nurses came in to check vitals, and Nora's mother slept through all of it. At some point, Ethan stepped into the hallway and called Maya. Clear my schedule for the rest of the week. What? Ethan, you have the investors meeting on Friday? Reschedule it. I can't just reschedule a meeting with 12 major investors, then cancel it. I don't care. I'm not leaving. Maya was quiet for a moment. Where are you? County General. Is Lily okay? Lily's fine. This isn't about Lily. Another pause. Then, carefully, is this about the assistant manager? Her name is Nora. Ethan, I know what you're going to say. And you're probably right, but I'm staying anyway. Okay. Maya's voice softened. What do you need? Can you have someone pack a bag from my place, bring it here, and send flowers, nice ones, not the generic hospital bouquet, something that feels alive. On it. Anything else? Yeah, call my lawyer. I need to set up something. I'll text you the details. He hung up before she could ask questions he didn't want to answer. When he went back into the room, Nora was asleep in her chair, her head tilted at an angle that would give her a terrible neckache. Danny was on his phone trying to look occupied. Ethan sat down quietly. Thank you, Danny said without looking up. For coming. Of course. She won't admit it, but she needed someone. She's been pretending she's fine for so long I think she forgot how to ask for help. Sounds familiar, Danny glanced at him. You do that too? Every day of my life. They sat in silence for a while. Then Danny asked, Are you in love with my sister? Ethan nearly choked on his coffee. What? You heard me. Danny set down his phone. Are you in love with her? I barely know her. That's not an answer. Ethan looked at Nora, still sleeping, her face soft in a way it never was when she was awake. I don't know, he admitted. We'll figure it out. Because she's been through enough. My dad dying, Mom getting sick, working herself to death trying to keep us afloat. She doesn't need some rich guy messing with her head because he's bored or guilty or whatever. I'm not messing with her head. Then what are you doing? Good question. I'm trying to be her friend, Ethan said. Danny snorted. Billionaires don't have friends. They have employees and business partners and people who want something from them. You're 17. What do you know about billionaires? I know they don't show up at hospitals for assistant managers unless there's something in it for them. The kid was smart and protective. Ethan respected that. You're right, Ethan said. Most wouldn't, but I'm not most billionaires. Prove it. How? Stick around. Not just today. Not just when it's convenient. Actually be there. Because Nora's going to need someone when... Danny's voice cracked. He looked away, blinking hard. When Mom's gone, and I can't be that person. I'm barely keeping it together myself. Ethan wanted to say something comforting, something about strength and resilience and how they'd get through this together. But Danny didn't need platitudes. I'll be there, Ethan said simply. Promise? Promise. Danny nodded, wiping his eyes quickly. Okay. Nora woke up an hour later, disoriented and stiff. She looked around the room like she'd forgotten where she was, then saw Ethan and Danny, and reality came crashing back. What time is it? Almost 6, Ethan said. I need to call work. Tell them I can't come in again. Already done. I called David, told him you're taking family leave. She stiffened. You had no right. You're right. I didn't. But it's done anyway. Ethan, you can be mad at me later. Right now you need to eat something. When was the last time you had a real meal? She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. I don't remember. Danny, there's a decent diner 2 blocks from here. Can you go get food? Get whatever looks good. I'm buying. Danny looked at Nora. She nodded tiredly. Okay, but if she tries to leave while I'm gone, text me. Deal. Danny left. Nora stood up, stretching, wincing at the stiffness in her back. You don't have to stay, she said. I know. Then why are you? Because I want to. She looked at him for a long moment. This is going to get messy. People are already talking, and when they find out you're here, spending time with me outside work, let them talk. Easy for you to say. You're the boss. I'm the one who'll get fired for fraternizing or sleeping my way to the top or whatever they decide to accuse me of. No one's firing you. You can't promise that. I own the company. I can promise whatever I want. Nora shook her head. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You using your power to protect me, to make my problems disappear. That's not help. That's control. She was right. Again. Then what do you want me to do? Ethan asked. I don't know. I can't think about this right now. I can't worry about my job or my reputation or what people think. I need to focus on my mom, on Danny, on getting through the next few weeks without completely falling apart. Okay? Okay. We table it. We don't talk about work or rumors or any of that. We just focus on right now. Your mom, your family. And when this is over, when you're ready, we figure out the rest. Nora's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Watch her die. I don't know how to sit here and smile and pretend it's okay when every breath she takes might be her last. I don't know how to be strong for Danny when I can barely hold myself together. I don't know. Her voice broke. I don't know how to say goodbye. Ethan stood up and pulled her into his arms before he could think better of it. She stiffened. Then she collapsed against him, sobbing into his chest. He held her. Didn't say anything. Didn't try to fix it. Just held her while she cried out weeks of exhaustion and fear and grief. When she finally pulled away, her face was blotchy and her eyes were swollen, and she'd never looked more human. I'm sorry, she said, wiping her face. Don't be. I got tears all over your shirt. It's just a shirt. She laughed, a small, broken sound. You probably paid more for that shirt than I make in a week. Then it's doing good work holding your tears. She almost smiled. You're weird. I've been told. They sat back down. Nora took her mother's hand, holding it gently. She wanted to see me graduate college, Nora said quietly. That was her big dream. She didn't care about weddings or grandkids. She just wanted to watch me walk across that stage and get my degree. And now... She stopped, swallowed. Now she won't. You could still finish. With what time? What money? Both can be found, if you want them badly enough. Nora looked at him. Are you offering to pay for my college? I'm saying it's possible, if it's what you want. And what would you want in return? The question landed like a slap. Nothing, Ethan said. People like you don't give without expecting something back. Then maybe I'm not people like you think I am. She studied him with those 2 honest eyes. I don't know what to do with you. You don't have to do anything. Just let me be here. Before she could answer, her mother stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then finding Nora. Baby? I'm here, Mom. Nora leaned forward, squeezing her hand. I'm right here. Her mother's gaze shifted to Ethan. Who's that? A friend. His name's Ethan. You have a friend? Her voice was weak, but there was a hint of teasing in it. Since when? Nora laughed through fresh tears. Since recently. Her mother looked at Ethan again. You taking care of my girl? Trying to, ma'am. Good. She won't let anyone do it. Too stubborn. Gets it from her father. She coughed, wincing. Danny? Getting food. He'll be back soon. Good boy. Both of you. Such good kids. Her eyes drifted closed again. Tired. Then sleep, Mom. We'll be here when you wake up. But they both knew that wasn't guaranteed. Every time her mother closed her eyes might be the last time. Danny came back with food. They ate in silence, taking turns sitting with their mother, trying to find normal in a situation that was anything but. That night, the nurses brought in a cot for Nora. She refused to leave. Danny eventually went home to shower and sleep in an actual bed, promising to come back first thing in the morning. Ethan stayed. He told himself it was just for tonight, just to make sure Nora wasn't alone. But somewhere around midnight, watching her sleep fitfully on that uncomfortable cot, he knew it was a lie. He wasn't staying because she needed him. He was staying because he needed to be there. The next 3 days blurred together. Ethan worked from his phone when necessary, took calls in the hallway, and otherwise just existed in that hospital room with Nora and Danny and their dying mother. Maya sent updates. The Sanderson renovation was on schedule. The investors' meeting had been rescheduled. Lily missed him, but understood Daddy was helping a friend. He barely registered any of it. On the 4th day, Nora's mother woke up lucid, more alert than she'd been in weeks. "I want to see the sky," she said. The nurse helped them move her to a wheelchair. They took her to the roof garden, a small space with a few trees and benches and a view of the city skyline. She sat there, wrapped in blankets, breathing slowly. "This is nice," she said. Nora and Danny sat on either side of her. Ethan hung back, giving them space. "I'm sorry I'm leaving you," their mother said quietly. "Don't," Nora choked out. "Please don't. I need to say it. I'm sorry you had to grow up so fast. Sorry you had to give up your dreams to take care of me. You deserved better. I had you. That was enough." "No, it wasn't. You were supposed to have time, to be young and stupid and make mistakes. Instead, you became a parent at 25. She reached up, touching Nora's face. "But you did good. You both did so good." Danny was crying openly. Nora was trying not to. "Take care of each other," their mother continued. "And Danny, finish high school. Go to college. Become that doctor you dream about. Don't let my dying stop you from living." "I won't," Danny managed. She looked at Nora. "And you? Find someone who sees you, really sees you. Not what you do for them, not what you can give them, just you." Her eyes drifted to Ethan. "Maybe you already have." "Mom, that man's been here for 4 days, sleeping in a chair, eating terrible hospital food, missing work, missing his life. For you." She squeezed Nora's hand weakly. "Don't push him away because you're scared. Scared is good. Scared means it matters." Nora couldn't speak. They stayed on that roof for an hour. Then the nurse came and said they needed to get her back inside. That night, surrounded by her children, with machines beeping steadily, Nora's mother slipped away, quietly, peacefully. One breath, then nothing. Nora felt it happen, that shift from living to gone. She stood up, still holding her mother's hand, and made a sound Ethan would never forget. Not a scream, not a sob. Something rawer than that. The sound of a heart breaking in real time. Danny wrapped his arms around his sister. They stood there, holding each other, holding their mother's hands, crying together. Ethan stepped into the hallway to give them privacy. He leaned against the wall, fighting his own tears, remembering his own mother's death and how it had felt like the world ended and somehow kept spinning anyway. A nurse passed by, saw his face. "I'm sorry for your loss." He nodded, not trusting his voice. An hour later, after the nurses had come and gone, after the paperwork had been started, after Danny had finally collapsed in exhausted sleep on the cot, Nora found Ethan in the hallway. She didn't say anything, just walked up to him and put her arms around him and held on like he was the only solid thing in a world that had just shattered. He held her back. Let her cry, let her break, let her be human. "Thank you," she whispered, "for staying. Always." The funeral was small. A few of her mother's former students, some neighbors, Danny's friends from school. The staff from the Sanderson sent flowers. Ethan paid for everything. The service, the burial, the reception afterward. He did it quietly, through his lawyer, so Nora couldn't refuse. She found out anyway. She confronted him after the service, in the parking lot of the funeral home. "You paid for this." "Yes. I told you I didn't want your charity." "It's not charity. It's a gift. There's a difference." "No, there isn't. Not when I can't afford to pay you back." "I don't want you to pay me back." "That's the problem." Her voice cracked. "You keep doing these things, these huge, overwhelming things, and I can't reciprocate. I can't give you anything in return. So what am I supposed to do? Just keep taking from you until I'm so far in debt I'll never get out? You don't owe me anything. Yes, I do. That's how this works. People don't just give without expecting something back. Maybe I do. Then you're lying, or you're stupid, or you want something you're not willing to say out loud. Ethan stepped closer. You want to know what I want? Yes. You. I want you, not as an employee, not as a project, not as someone to fix or save or manage. Just you. Exactly as you are. Nora stared at him. That's not fair. I know. You're my boss. I know. People already think I'm sleeping with you to keep my job. I know. And now you're standing here at my mother's funeral telling me you want me? What am I supposed to do with that? Tell me you don't feel it too. She opened her mouth, closed it, looked away. Tell me, Ethan repeated, that the last month meant nothing, that every conversation was just polite, that when I held you in that hospital room you didn't feel it. Tell me that and I'll walk away. I'll finish the renovation and I'll never bother you again. Nora's hands were shaking. I can't. Can't what? Can't tell you that. Because it would be a lie. She looked at him with those two honest eyes, red from crying, exhausted from grief. But I also can't do this. Whatever this is. Not now, maybe not ever. Why? Because my mother just died. Because I'm barely holding together. Because I don't trust myself to make good decisions right now. And because... She stopped, breathed. Because I'm terrified. Of what? Of you. Of this. Of letting myself care about someone who could destroy my life with a phone call. You have all the power, Ethan. All of it. And I have nothing. So even if I wanted to take this risk, even if I wanted to see where it goes, I can't. Because the second things go wrong, I'm the one who loses everything. The words hit him like bullets, every one of them true. You're right, he said. She looked surprised. You're right, he repeated. I do have all the power, and that's not fair, and I don't know how to fix it, but I'm not walking away. Ethan, I'm not walking away, he said again, but I'll give you space, time, whatever you need. And when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. He wanted to kiss her, wanted to pull her close and promise everything would be okay and make all her fear disappear. But he didn't. Instead, he got in his car and drove away, watching her in the rearview mirror until she disappeared. That night, someone leaked a photo. Ethan and Nora. In the hospital, his arms around her, her face buried in his chest. The caption read, Billionaire CEO, Ethan Cole, caught in intimate moment with Sanderson Hotel employee. Affair or favoritism? By morning, it was everywhere. Maya called at 6 a.m. Ethan was already awake, staring at his phone, watching the story spread across business blogs and gossip sites like wildfire. We need to do damage control, Maya said without preamble. Now! What kind of damage control? A statement, press release. Something that explains the photo without making it worse. There's nothing to explain. I was comforting a friend whose mother just died. That's not what it looks like. And you know it. Maya's voice was tight. The photo's been shared 40,000 times. People are calling you a hypocrite, saying you preach professional standards while sleeping with employees. There are already 3 threads on Reddit analyzing your relationship. Ethan closed his eyes. What does Nora say? I haven't been able to reach her. Her phone's off. What about the hotel? David's fielding calls from reporters. Half the staff is freaking out. And corporate HR wants a meeting this afternoon to discuss potential ethics violations. There are no ethics violations. Then explain the photo. I already did. I was comforting a grieving friend. Who happens to be your employee at a property you personally oversee after spending weeks working closely with her on renovations. Maya paused. Ethan, I know you. I know you wouldn't actually abuse your position, but from the outside, this looks really bad. I don't care how it looks. Well, you should, because Nora's the one who's going to pay for it. That stopped him cold. What do you mean? I mean she's an assistant manager at a mid-tier hotel making $18 an hour, You're a billionaire CEO. When this blows up, who do you think takes the hit? You'll get some bad press for a few weeks and move on. She'll be labeled a gold digger for the rest of her career. Ethan sat down heavily. He hadn't thought about it that way. Hadn't considered that his ability to weather this storm didn't extend to Nora. What do I do? Distance yourself, publicly. Issue a statement clarifying that your relationship is strictly professional. Let HR investigate and clear both of you, and stop showing up at her job. That's it? Just pretend the last month didn't happen? That's how you protect her, and yourself. Ethan hung up and stared at the photo on his screen. The angle made it look intimate, like they were alone. Like this was a private moment between lovers instead of a public hallway in a hospital. Whoever took it had known exactly what they were doing. His phone rang again. This time it was his lawyer. We need to talk about the optics here. Not you too. Ethan, I'm serious. If someone decides to file a complaint with the labor board, this could get messy. Allegations of favoritism, hostile work environment. Even if it's all baseless, the investigation alone could tank your reputation. Let them investigate. There's nothing to find. Are you sure? Because I'm looking at a paper trail that shows you personally approved budget increases for the Sanderson, requested specific staff, showed up at the property multiple times without notice, all after hiring an employee you'd previously met outside work. I met her by accident. Doesn't matter. It looks intentional, and intention is what they'll argue. Ethan wanted to throw his phone across the room. Instead, he forced himself to stay calm. What do you recommend? Full transparency. Disclose everything to HR, timeline of your interactions, nature of your relationship. Let them determine if any policies were violated. And if they decide there was impropriety, then Nora gets terminated and you face potential board action. That's not acceptable. Then you need to make a choice, her job or your reputation, because right now you can't protect both. The call ended. Ethan sat in his home office, watching the sun rise through the window, feeling like everything he'd built over the last month was crumbling. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a screenshot, comments from an article about the photo. Of course she slept with him. How else would she get promoted? Gold Digger 101. Target a rich single dad. I feel bad for his daughter. Imagine having a homewrecker for a stepmom. She's not even that pretty. Must be really good in bed. Ethan felt sick. Another text came through. Same number. Thought you should see what they're saying about your girlfriend. Hope it was worth it. He tried calling the number. It went straight to a message. This number cannot receive calls. Someone was watching. Someone wanted him to know they were watching. He called Maya back. I need you to find out who took that photo and who's been sending me screenshots. Already on it. But Ethan, even if we find them, we can't unring this bell. I know, but I can control what happens next. He hung up and got dressed. By 7:30, he was in his car. By 8, he was pulling up to Nora's apartment building. It was older, paint peeling, the kind of place where the landlord did the bare minimum and charged too much anyway. He found her unit on the second floor and knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Nora, it's Ethan. I know you're in there. Nothing. Please. I just need to know you're okay. The door opened 6 inches. Danny stood there, looking exhausted and furious. She doesn't want to see you. I need to talk to her. You need to leave. Danny, do you have any idea what this morning's been like? Her phone hasn't stopped buzzing. People from high school she hasn't talked to in 10 years messaging to ask if she's really sleeping with some rich guy. Her landlord called asking if she's moving out because apparently the building doesn't allow that kind of activity. And someone spray-painted whore on her car. Ethan felt like he'd been punched. What? Yeah. So whatever you came here to say, she doesn't need to hear it. She needs you to go away and let her figure out how to survive this. I want to help. You've helped enough. Danny started to close the door. Wait, please, just tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I'm going to fix this. You can't fix this. You can only make it worse. Danny looked at him with the same too honest eyes as his sister. She told me what you said at the funeral about wanting her. Do you have any idea how selfish that was? I was being honest. You were being cruel. She just lost her mom. She's broke. She's terrified. And you dumped that on her? What was she supposed to do with it? I don't know. I needed her to know. No, you needed to feel better about yourself. You needed to say it out loud so you could pretend you were being brave. But you didn't think about what it would cost her. And now she's paying for it. The door closed. Ethan stood in the hallway, Danny's words echoing in his head. He'd been selfish, reckless. He'd told himself he was being honest, but really he'd just been dumping his feelings on someone who was barely holding together. And now she was being destroyed for it. He went back to his car and sat there, staring at Nora's building. Her car was parked on the street, white spray paint across the driver's side door, the word barely legible but unmistakable. He took a photo, sent it to his lawyer with a message. File a police report, vandalism and harassment. I want whoever did this found. Then he called David at the Sanderson. How bad is it? David sighed. Bad. 3 staff members called in sick. 2 asked to transfer to other properties. And we've had about a dozen calls from guests asking if the hotel is safe or if there's some kind of scandal. What did you tell them? That there's no scandal, that Mr. Cole maintains professional relationships with all employees, and that any rumors to the contrary are baseless. Good. What about Nora? She called this morning, asked for a leave of absence. Indefinite. Ethan's chest tightened. Did she say why? Personal reasons. I didn't push. Given the circumstances, it seemed like the right call. Did you approve it? I said I'd need to check with corporate, which means you. Ethan should approve it, should let her take time, let the story die down, let HR do their investigation without her caught in the middle. But approving it felt like giving up, like admitting they'd done something wrong when all they'd done was care about each other. Approve it, he said anyway. Paid leave, full benefits, however long she needs. Ethan, I have to ask, is there any truth to the rumors? What rumors specifically? That you're involved with her, romantically. Would it matter if I was? For HR purposes, yes. You know the fraternization policy. Relationships between supervisors and subordinates have to be disclosed. She's not my subordinate. She doesn't report to me. You own the company. Everyone reports to you. Technically, she reports to you. I'm several levels removed. That's not how corporate will see it. David's voice was careful. Look, I'm not judging. I'm just saying if there's something there, you need to disclose it before HR finds out on their own. There's nothing to disclose. We're friends, that's all. Friends don't usually make the news. Ethan hung up without answering. The rest of the day was a blur of meetings and conference calls and lawyers discussing worst-case scenarios. By evening, the story had been picked up by 3 major business publications. By midnight, it was trending on social media. Ethan tried calling Nora. Her phone was still off. He tried texting. No response. He considered showing up at her apartment again, but knew Danny was right. He'd only make things worse. So he did the only thing he could do. He threw money at the problem. He hired a PR firm to manage the narrative, a private investigator to find who took the photo, a security company to patrol Nora's building, and a lawyer to prepare statements for the inevitable HR investigation. None of it felt like enough. 3 days passed. The story started to die down. A celebrity divorce took over the news cycle. People moved on to the next scandal. But Ethan couldn't move on. He kept thinking about what Danny said, about being selfish, about dumping his feelings on Nora when she was vulnerable. The kid was right. Ethan had been so focused on being honest, on not hiding what he felt, that he hadn't considered the cost, hadn't thought about what it would mean for Nora to have a billionaire publicly tied to her in the middle of her grief. He'd been careless, and she was paying for it. On the 4th day, Maya walked into his office with a folder. You're not going to like this. What now? HR finished their preliminary investigation. They want to interview you and Nora separately. Standard protocol for fraternization allegations. When? Next week, but there's more. She opened the folder. They found evidence of policy violations. What kind of violations? You approved budget increases for the Sanderson without board oversight. You made staffing decisions without consulting the property manager. And you spent company time at a property for non-business purposes. I was evaluating the renovation. For 2 hours a day, twice a week over the course of a month? That's not evaluation. That's excessive oversight. And the board is going to want to know why. Because I wanted the property to succeed. Because you were spending time with Nora, Maya corrected. And that's the problem. Even if nothing inappropriate happened, the appearance of impropriety is enough to violate company policy. Ethan leaned back in his chair. What are they recommending? Censure, mandatory ethics training, and reassignment of the Sanderson to a different oversight manager. That's it? For you, yes. For Nora, it's worse. His stomach dropped. How worse? They're recommending termination, not for misconduct, for creating a hostile work environment. She didn't create anything. This was my fault. Doesn't matter. The staff is uncomfortable. Guests are calling with concerns. And HR's position is that keeping her on creates more problems than it solves. So they're firing her to protect me. They're firing her to protect the company. Ethan stood up. No. No. I won't let them do this. She didn't do anything wrong. Neither did you, technically, but someone has to take the fall, and it's not going to be the CEO. Then I'll resign. Maya stared at him. You're not serious. Completely serious. If they fire Nora, I resign, effective immediately. You built this company. You're not walking away because of a mid-level employee you've known for 6 weeks. She's not just an employee. Then what is she? Good question. She's someone I care about, Ethan said. Someone who matters. And I'm not going to let her lose her job because I was too stupid to keep my distance. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she closed the folder. You're making a mistake. Probably. The board won't accept your resignation. They'll just override the HR recommendation and keep you both. Then that's their choice. Ethan, I'm done talking about this. Tell HR I'll do the interview. Tell the board I'll accept whatever consequences they decide. But I'm not throwing Nora under the bus to save myself. Maya left. Ethan sat alone in his office, wondering if he'd just made the worst decision of his career. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Martyrdom looks good on you, but it won't save her. He tried calling. Same automated message. Another text. She already left town, didn't even say goodbye, some love story. Ethan's blood went cold. He called Danny immediately. Is Nora gone? Who is this? Ethan? Is your sister gone? Silence. Then, yeah, she left yesterday. Where? I don't know. She said she needed space, time to think. She didn't tell me where she was going. Danny, this is important. Is she safe? I think so. She texted this morning saying she was okay, but she won't tell me where she is. If she contacts you again, tell her to call me, please. Why would she do that? You're the reason she left. The line went dead. Ethan sat there, staring at his phone, feeling the full weight of what he'd done. He'd pushed too hard, wanted too much. And now Nora was gone. The HR interview happened the following Tuesday. 2 stone-faced corporate representatives asked questions Ethan answered honestly. Yes, he'd spent significant time at the Sanderson. Yes, he'd developed a friendship with Nora Hayes. No, they had never been romantically involved. No, he had never used his position to coerce or manipulate her. They asked about the photo. He explained it was taken in a hospital where Nora's mother had just died. He'd been offering comfort to a grieving friend. Nothing more. They asked about the budget increases. He explained his vision for the property, his desire to make it more than just a profitable investment. They asked if Nora had influenced those decisions. He said yes. Her insights had been valuable. Her perspective had changed how he thought about hospitality. They wrote everything down without expression. We'll be in touch, they said. 2 weeks passed. Ethan heard nothing from HR, nothing from Nora. The story had completely died down. New scandals had taken its place, but Ethan couldn't let it go. He hired 3 different investigators to find Nora. All came back with nothing. She'd either gone completely off-grid or she was better at disappearing than anyone expected. Maya tried to convince him to move on, to focus on work, to let it go. He couldn't. Then, 3 weeks after Nora left, Ethan got a call from his private investigator. I found her. Where? Small town in Vermont, about 4 hours north. She's staying at a bed and breakfast, using a different name. Send me the address. Mr. Cole, I have to advise against this. She clearly doesn't want to be found. Send me the address anyway. Ethan was in his car within the hour. The drive took 4.5 hours, rain most of the way. Gray skies that matched his mood. The bed and breakfast was exactly the kind of place Nora had described wanting to open someday. Old Victorian house, wraparound porch, gardens that probably looked beautiful when it wasn't pouring. He parked across the street and sat there trying to figure out what to say. I'm sorry felt inadequate. I miss you felt selfish. Come back felt impossible. He was still sitting there when she walked out. She wore jeans and an oversized sweater. Her hair was down. She looked tired but calmer than the last time he'd seen her. She was carrying 2 bags of groceries. She didn't see him at first. Started walking down the sidewalk toward town. Ethan got out of the car. Nora. She stopped, turned. Her face went through several emotions in rapid succession. Surprise, anger, something else he couldn't name. What are you doing here? I needed to see you. So you hired someone to track me down? Yes. She shook her head. That's exactly the problem. You can't just show up whenever you want. You can't throw money at every problem until it goes away. I know. Then why are you here? Good question. Because I was wrong, Ethan said. About everything. The way I handled things. The way I dumped my feelings on you. The way I didn't consider what it would cost you. Danny was right. I was selfish. And I'm sorry. Nora set down the groceries. You drove 4 hours to apologize? I drove 4 hours because I couldn't stand not knowing if you were okay. I'm fine. You're hiding in Vermont under a fake name. I'm taking time to think. There's a difference. About what? About what I want. About who I want to be. About whether I'm strong enough to go back and face all those people who think they know who I am based on a photo. You are. You don't know that. Yes, I do. You're the strongest person I've ever met. She laughed, not a happy sound. I ran away, Ethan. That's not strong. That's cowardice. No, it's survival. There's a difference. They stood there in the rain, neither of them moving. I lost my job, Nora said quietly. HR called last week, said they were letting me go. Hostile work environment. They're giving me 3 months severance and a neutral reference. I'll fight it. Don't. I already signed the papers. Nora, I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to be the assistant manager who allegedly slept with the boss. I don't want people looking at me and wondering if I earned my position or if I was just convenient. I want to start over. Somewhere nobody knows who I am or what I supposedly did. Is that why you're here? Partly. Also because the woman who owns this place is retiring. She offered to sell it to me. Ethan blinked. What? I know. It's crazy. I can't afford it. Don't have the credit. Don't have the experience. But she doesn't care. She said she sees something in me, some quality she had when she was young, and she's willing to own her finance with almost nothing down. Are you going to do it? I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me thinks it's just running away with extra steps. Or it's running towards something. She looked at him. Is that what you think I should do? I think you should do whatever makes you happy. What if I don't know what that is anymore? Then you figure it out, and you don't let anyone rush you. Nora wiped rain off her face. Or maybe tears. Hard to tell. Why did you really come here? She asked. I told you. I wanted to make sure you were okay. That's not all. She was right. It wasn't. I came because I made you a promise, Ethan said. At the funeral. I told you I'd be there when you were ready. And I meant it. Even if ready means telling me to leave. Even if ready means starting over somewhere I'm not part of. I needed you to know I meant it. You're going to wait for me? Even if it takes years? Even if I never come back? Yes. That's insane. Probably. She picked up her groceries. I can't give you what you want, Ethan. I'm not asking you to. Yes, you are. Maybe not out loud, but you're here. Standing in the rain. Looking at me like I'm something worth waiting for, and I can't be that person. Not right now. Maybe not ever. Okay. She looked surprised. Okay? Okay. I'll wait anyway. Why? Because you sat at the wrong table and changed my life, and I'm not ready to let that go yet. Nora's eyes filled with tears. You have to stop saying things like that. Why? Because it makes it harder to walk away. Then don't walk away. I have to, for both of us. She turned and started walking. Ethan stood there, watching her go, feeling like his chest was being crushed. She made it about 10 steps before she stopped, turned around, walked back, and kissed him. It wasn't gentle, wasn't romantic. It was desperate and messy and tasted like rain and salt and goodbye. When she pulled away, she was crying. "Can't do this," she whispered. "I want to, but I can't. Not yet. Maybe not ever." I know. Then stop looking at me like your heart is breaking." "I can't." She touched his face, just briefly, just enough. Then she walked away. This time, Ethan didn't follow. He stood in the rain, watching her disappear into the bed and breakfast, and knew that this was what letting someone go actually looked like. Not dramatic, not final, just painful. He got in his car and drove home. The next day, he established a trust. $5 million. Earmarked for a loan program for aspiring hospitality entrepreneurs. No credit check required, no collateral, just a business plan and a dream and someone willing to take a chance. The first loan went to a bed and breakfast in Vermont. The borrower never knew who funded it. 3 months passed. Ethan threw himself into work. The Sanderson reopened after renovations. The reviews were incredible. People called it the most welcoming mid-tier hotel they'd ever stayed at. David sent photos. The lobby looked exactly like Nora had envisioned. Warm, inviting, safe. Ethan visited once, walked through the space she'd helped create, and left without saying anything to anyone. He dated a few people. Professional women his own age, investment bankers, lawyers, people who made sense on paper. None of them made him feel anything. Lily asked why he seemed sad. He told her he was just tired. She didn't believe him, but stopped asking. Then, 6 months after Nora left, Ethan got a letter. No return address. Vermont postmark. Inside was a single page. Handwritten. "The bed and breakfast is doing well. Better than I expected. Turns out I'm good at this. Making people feel safe. You were right about that. Danny got into college, pre-med, full scholarship. He's going to be a doctor, just like he wanted. I think about you sometimes. About that first night. How you bought me pasta even though you didn't know me. How you showed up at the hospital even though you didn't have to. How you waited in the rain even though I told you to leave. I'm not ready yet, but I'm getting there. And when I am, I'll find you. Don't wait for me. Live your life, be happy, raise your daughter, build your hotels. But if, when I'm ready, you're still interested in a woman who once sat at the wrong table and accidentally changed your life, I'll be here." Ethan read the letter 3 times. Then he put it in his desk drawer, and for the first time in 6 months, he smiled. Ethan didn't write back. That was the hardest part. Having her address, or at least the postmark, and choosing not to use it. But Nora had asked him to live his life, and he was trying. Lily helped. She always had. At 7, she'd developed opinions about everything from which cereal was morally superior to why dinosaurs were better than unicorns. She filled the silence in his house with chatter and laughter and the kind of chaos that kept him from thinking too much about what he'd lost. One Saturday morning, she appeared in his office doorway holding a shoebox. "What's that?" Ethan asked. "My feelings box. Mrs. Palmer said we should put our feelings in boxes when they're too big to keep inside." "And what feelings are in there?" Lily opened the lid. Inside were drawings. Stick figures labeled Daddy and Lily and Mommy far away, and one that said, "The Sad Lady." Ethan's throat tightened. "Who's the sad lady?" "I don't know. You keep looking at her letter. The one in your desk. I saw it when I was looking for tape." He should have been upset about the snooping. Instead, he just felt tired. "She's a friend," Ethan said. "Is she why you're sad?" "Sometimes." Lily climbed into his lap, the shoebox balanced between them. "Mrs. Palmer says when you miss someone, you should tell them. Otherwise, they don't know." "It's more complicated than that, sweetheart." "Why?" "Because grown-ups make things complicated." She considered this seriously. Then she pulled out a drawing from her box. It showed a stick figure with yellow hair, clearly Lily, holding hands with 2 taller figures. One was labeled Daddy. The other was labeled Friend Who Makes Daddy Not Sad. "You drew this?" Ethan asked. "Last week. I was going to give it to you, but then I put it in my feelings box instead. Why? Because you looked like you needed space. That's what Mommy always says when she doesn't want to talk. Ethan hugged his daughter tight, wondering when she'd gotten so perceptive and hating that she'd learned to read his moods like a survival skill. Thank you, he said, for thinking of me. Will you see the sad lady again? I don't know. Do you want to? Yes. Then you should tell her. That's what Mrs. Palmer would say. Out of the mouths of children. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan pulled out Nora's letter and read it again. Then he did something he'd been avoiding for 6 months. He wrote back. Not a long letter, not a plea for her to come back. Just the truth. I'm trying to live my life like you asked. It's harder than I thought it would be. Lily drew a picture of you the other day. She's never met you, but somehow she knows you matter. Kids are strange that way. The Sanderson is thriving. People leave reviews saying it feels like home. You did that, your vision, your heart. I just paid for it. I'm not waiting, but I'm not moving on either. I'm somewhere in between. It's uncomfortable but honest. Whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, you know where to find me. E. He mailed it the next morning before he could talk himself out of it. 3 weeks later, he got a response. Lily sounds wonderful. I hope I get to meet her someday. Tell her the sad lady isn't as sad anymore. The bed and breakfast is fully booked through fall. I hired 2 staff members. One is a single mom who needed a second chance. The other is a college kid working his way through school. I thought about what you said once, about how hotels should be places where people feel safe. I'm trying to build that here. Not just for guests, for staff too. I'm still not ready, but I'm closer than I was. N. The letters became a rhythm. Every few weeks, one of them would write. Nothing heavy, nothing demanding, just updates. Pieces of their lives traded like gifts. Ethan told her about Lily's school play, about a new hotel acquisition in Colorado, about his father's birthday, which he always spent alone drinking scotch and remembering. Nora told him about her guests, the elderly couple celebrating 50 years of marriage, the writer who stayed for 2 weeks finishing a novel, the teenager who showed up alone and scared and stayed in the cheapest room, while Nora quietly made sure she had enough to eat. The letters never mentioned the future, never asked when, just existed in the present, building something neither of them could name. Months passed, then a year. Ethan dated occasionally, nothing serious. Maya stopped asking about his personal life after he told her kindly to mind her own business. The Sanderson won an award for mid-tier hospitality excellence. David called to tell him the staff wanted to dedicate it to the vision that transformed us. Ethan knew they meant Nora, but didn't correct them. Then, on a Tuesday morning 14 months after Nora left, Ethan's phone rang. Unknown number, Vermont area code. Hello? Hi. Her voice. After all this time, still the same. It's me. Ethan set down his coffee before he dropped it. Hi. I'm calling because I need to tell you something and I didn't want to write it in a letter. His heart was hammering. Okay. I'm selling the bed and breakfast. Whatever he'd expected, it wasn't that. What? Why? Because I built something beautiful here. Something I'm proud of. But it's not enough anymore. She paused. I spent the last year proving to myself that I could do this, that I could be successful on my own terms, without help, without shortcuts. And I did it. The place is profitable, self-sustaining. I could run it for the next 30 years and be fine. But fine isn't what I want. I want more. I want to build something bigger, something that matters beyond one small town in Vermont. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I know I can't figure it out here. I need to come back, face the people who judged me, prove that I'm more than that photo, more than the rumors. Ethan's throat was tight. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Maybe not, but I need to prove it to myself. Another pause. I'm scared. That's normal. I'm scared I'll come back and you'll have moved on. Met someone who makes sense, someone who doesn't come with all this baggage. I haven't. How do you know? Because I tried. Multiple times, and none of them were you. She laughed softly. That's not fair. You can't say things like that when I'm trying to be brave. Sorry. No, you're not. You're right. I'm not. They sat in silence for a moment, just breathing, just existing in the same moment across hundreds of miles. I sold the place yesterday, Nora said finally. To a young couple from Boston. They're going to keep the staff, keep the vision. I made sure of that. When do you close? 2 weeks. I need to train them, make sure the transition is smooth, and then I'm coming back. Where will you go? I don't know. I have some money saved, enough to figure things out for a few months. Maybe I'll get a job. Maybe I'll start something new. I haven't decided. Ethan wanted to offer her everything, an apartment, a job, money to start whatever business she wanted. But he knew she'd refuse, knew she needed to do this her own way. Will you let me know when you're back? He asked instead. Yes, but Ethan, I know, no expectations, no pressure, just friends. I was going to say I'm bringing Danny. He's on winter break from college. He wants to see the city, and he wants to meet you, properly this time. Ethan smiled. I'd like that. He might try to intimidate you. I can handle it. He's very protective. Good. You deserve that. Another pause. Then, so quietly, he almost missed it. I missed you? I missed you too. See you in 2 weeks. She hung up. Ethan sat in his office, staring at his phone, feeling like he'd just won and lost something at the same time. Maya knocked. You okay? You look weird. I'm fine. That's your something just happened face. Nothing happened. Liar. She sat down across from him. Was it her? Ethan didn't answer. It was her. She's coming back. Maybe. Definitely. I can see it all over your face. Maya leaned forward. Are you ready for this? I don't know. That's honest, at least. She studied him. What are you going to do? Nothing. She's coming back on her own terms. I'm just going to be here when she does. And if she decides she doesn't want this, whatever this is, then I'll accept that. Will you, though? Good question. I'll have to, Ethan said, because the alternative is pushing her away again, and I'm not doing that. Maya nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think she's lucky. Not many people would wait this long. I'm not waiting. I'm just living my life in a way that leaves room for her. That's the same thing. Maybe, but it sounds better. 2 weeks later, Ethan got a text. Just got into town. Staying with Danny at a hotel near his campus. Want to meet for coffee tomorrow. Somewhere quiet, no pressure. He responded immediately. Name the place and time. She sent an address. A small cafe in a neighborhood he didn't know. 10 in the morning. Ethan barely slept that night. The cafe was exactly the kind of place Nora would choose. No corporate branding, mismatched furniture, plants in the windows, the smell of fresh bread and real coffee. He got there 15 minutes early, ordered black coffee, sat by the window where he could watch the door. She walked in at exactly 10. She looked different, older somehow. Not in years, but in the way she carried herself. More certain, less apologetic. She wore jeans and a green sweater. Her hair was shorter. She'd cut it to her shoulders. She saw him, smiled. It was tentative but real. Ethan stood up. They stared at each other for a moment. Then Nora laughed. This is weird, right? We've been writing letters for over a year, and now I don't know what to say. Hi works. Hi. They sat down. The silence stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable, just full. You cut your hair, Ethan said. I needed a change, something that felt like me instead of who I used to be. It looks good. Thanks. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. You look tired. Bad night's sleep. Nervous? Terrified. She smiled. Me too. They talked for an hour about the bed and breakfast, about Lily's latest obsession with marine biology, about Danny's first semester at college and how he was thriving, about the Sanderson and how it had become a model for Ethan's other properties. They didn't talk about them, about what happened 14 months ago, about the photo or the rumors or the kiss in the rain. They just talked. At some point, Nora's hand ended up on the table between them. Ethan looked at it, at her fingers, no longer shaking like they had been that first night in the restaurant. I've been thinking a lot, Nora said, about what I want, who I want to be, and I realized something. What? I spent so long trying to prove I didn't need help that I forgot there's a difference between needing help and accepting it, between being dependent and being connected. What's the difference? Dependency is when you can't function without someone. Connection is when you function better with them. She looked at him. I don't need you to survive, Ethan. I proved that to myself, but I think I want you anyway, and that scares me. Why? Because wanting someone gives them power, and I've spent so long trying to take power back. What if I gave you mine? She blinked. What? What if I gave you power over me? What if I admitted that you changed my life in a way I can't undo and I don't want to? What if I said that this last year has been fine, but not good because you weren't in it? Ethan, I'm not asking you to decide anything right now. I'm just saying I'm not interested in games or power dynamics or who needs who more. I'm interested in you, exactly as you are. Messy and scared and brave and brilliant. And if you want to figure out what that means together, I'm here. And if you don't, I'll accept that too. But I need you to know where I stand. Nora's eyes were bright. You can't just say things like that. Why not? Because it makes it impossible to walk away. Then don't walk away. What if I mess this up? Then we'll fix it. What if we can't? Then at least we tried. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and took his hand. Okay. Okay? Okay, let's try. Whatever this is. Let's figure it out. Ethan's chest felt like it might explode. Yeah? Yeah, but I have conditions. Name them. I need to find my own place, my own job, my own life. I can't go back to being the assistant manager at your hotel. I can't be someone people look at and wonder if I earned it. Agreed. And I need time, with Lily, to make sure she's okay with this. To make sure I'm not just the woman who's dating her dad, but someone she actually likes. She already likes you. She drew a picture. She's never met me. She knows you matter. Nora smiled. Okay, then I need to not mess up meeting her. You won't. You don't know that. I know you. That's enough. They sat there, hands linked across the table, and for the first time in 14 months, Ethan felt like he could breathe all the way. Meeting Lily was scheduled for the following Saturday. Nora was so nervous she changed outfits 3 times before settling on jeans and a sweater that Danny said made her look approachable but not trying too hard. They met at a children's museum. Neutral territory, low pressure. Lily was waiting with Ethan near the entrance, practically vibrating with excitement. Is that her? She whispered loudly. That's her, Ethan confirmed. Nora walked up, trying to look calm and probably failing. Hi, she said. You must be Lily. Lily studied her with the serious intensity only 7-year-olds could muster. You're shorter than I thought. Lily, Ethan warned. It's okay. Nora crouched down to Lily's level. I am pretty short, but good things come in small packages, right? That's what Daddy says about me. Well, Daddy's smart. Lily grinned. Then, without warning, she announced, I brought my feelings box. Want to see? I'd love to. They spent 3 hours in that museum. Lily showed Nora her favorite exhibits. The dinosaur bones. The butterfly garden. The room where you could build structures and knock them down. At some point, Ethan watched Nora help Lily construct an elaborate tower out of foam blocks, both of them laughing when it inevitably collapsed, and felt something settle in his chest. This could work. It wouldn't be easy. There would be complications, questions, people who didn't understand. But watching his daughter and the woman he'd fallen for building something together, even if it was just a temporary tower, Ethan thought maybe complicated was okay. Maybe complicated was better than simple. On the drive home, Lily fell asleep in the back seat. Ethan pulled up to Nora's hotel. She's wonderful, Nora said quietly. She liked you. How can you tell? She showed you her feelings box. She doesn't do that with people she doesn't trust. Nora looked at Lily sleeping. I don't want to mess this up, for her. She's been through enough with her mom being distant. She doesn't need another person who might leave. Then don't leave. It's not that simple. It kind of is. You either want this or you don't. I want it. I'm just scared. So am I. She looked at him. Really? Terrified. What if I'm not enough? What if you wake up one day and realize you settled? What if... She kissed him. Right there in his car, with his daughter asleep in the back seat. It was different from the kiss in Vermont. less desperate, more certain. When she pulled back, she was smiling. "Stop overthinking," she said. "That's rich coming from you." "I know, but someone has to be brave. Might as well be me." Over the next few months, they built something real. Not perfect, not smooth, but real. Nora found a job managing a small boutique hotel downtown. Not one of Ethan's properties. Somewhere she could prove herself on her own merit. She found an apartment, small but hers. Danny stayed with her during breaks from college. Ethan introduced her to Maya, who grilled her for 20 minutes before declaring, "Okay, you're good, but if you hurt him, I know people." They went on actual dates. Movies, dinners, long walks where they talked about everything and nothing. Lily started calling her Miss Nora and asking when she was coming over next. It wasn't always easy. There were hard conversations about boundaries, about what it meant to be in a relationship where one person had significantly more money and power. Nora insisted on paying for her own things. Ethan had to learn not to solve her problems with his checkbook. They fought about it once, a stupid argument about whether Ethan could pay for Danny's textbooks. "He's struggling," Ethan said. "I can help." "That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" "The point is you can't just throw money at every problem. Some things we need to handle ourselves." "Why? Why does it have to be hard when it doesn't have to be?" "Because if you solve everything for us, what are we bringing to this relationship? What's the point of me if you can just make all our problems disappear?" That stopped him. "You think that's what you are to me?" Ethan asked quietly. "A problem to solve?" "I think you're used to fixing things, and I need to not be one of them." They didn't talk for 2 days after that. It was miserable. Finally, Ethan showed up at her apartment with takeout and an apology. "You're right. I was being controlling. I'm sorry." "I'm sorry too. For being so stubborn, I can't accept help even when it's offered with good intentions." They ate cold Chinese food on her living room floor and agreed to work on it. And they did. Slowly, imperfectly, but honestly. 1 year after Nora came back, Ethan was reviewing plans for a new project when an idea hit him. He called the architects, changed everything, spent 3 weeks redesigning from scratch. Then he called Nora. "I want to show you something." "What?" "It's a surprise. Can you meet me at the old Riverside property tomorrow morning?" The Riverside was one of Ethan's oldest buildings, abandoned for years, too expensive to renovate, too valuable to demolish. Nora met him there at 9, looked around at the gutted lobby with confusion. "What is this?" "A proposal. Not that kind," he added quickly when her eyes went wide. "A business proposal." He handed her the revised architectural plans. She studied them. Her expression shifted from confusion to understanding to something he couldn't quite name. "This is a shelter," she said quietly. "Not exactly. It's a transitional hotel for people who need a safe place while they get back on their feet. Single parents, people leaving abusive situations, kids aging out of foster care. They can stay up to 6 months. Free. We provide job training, childcare support, resources." "Ethan, you said once that hotels should be places where people feel safe. I've been thinking about that, about what it would look like to build that for people who need it most." He pulled out another document. "I'm establishing it as a nonprofit, funded through my foundation, but I need someone to run it, someone who understands hospitality and compassion and what it means to need a second chance." Nora looked up at him. "You want me to run this?" "I want us to build it together. You'd be the director, full control over operations. I'd handle funding and logistics. But the vision, the heart, that's all you." Her hands were shaking. "I don't have the credentials. I never finished my degree." "Then finish it. I'll make sure you have the time and resources, or don't. Your experience matters more than a piece of paper." He stepped closer. "I'm not offering this because we're together. I'm offering it because you're the only person I know who could make this what it needs to be. People will talk. They'll say I only got this because I'm sleeping with you. Probably. Do you care?" She thought about it, really thought about it. "No," she said finally. "I don't. Not anymore." "So is that a yes?" "It's a yes." He kissed her right there in that gutted lobby that would become something beautiful. The Riverside opened 18 months later. The ribbon cutting was small, just staff and a few reporters and the first residents moving into their rooms. Nora stood next to Ethan, holding his hand, watching a single mother carry her daughter through the entrance. "This is going to change lives," she said. "It already has." She looked at him. "Whose?" "Mine." That night, Ethan took Nora and Lily to a small cafe, the same one where he'd met Nora for coffee when she first came back. They ordered dinner. Lily told a long, rambling story about her science project. Nora listened like it was the most important thing she'd ever heard. After they ate, after Lily went to the bathroom, Ethan pulled out a small box. Nora's eyes went wide. "Ethan, I know. I said this wasn't that kind of proposal. I lied." He opened the box. Inside was a simple ring. Nothing flashy, just beautiful. "I'm not asking you to marry me right now. I'm asking if you'd be open to the idea. Someday. When you're ready." "That's the strangest proposal I've ever heard." "I know, but I needed you to know I'm serious about this. About us. About building a life together. And I figured if I waited for the perfect moment, I'd be waiting forever. So I'm asking now. In a cafe where we once sat and tried to figure out if this thing between us was real." Nora was crying, smiling and crying at the same time. "Yes. Yes, you'll think about it? Yes, I'll marry you. Not someday. Now. Or soon. Whenever. Just yes." He slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. Lily came back from the bathroom and saw the ring and screamed so loud the entire cafe turned to look. "Does this mean Miss Nora is staying forever?" "If she wants to," Ethan said. "I want to," Nora confirmed. Lily threw her arms around both of them. "This is the best day ever." Sitting there in that small cafe, holding the two people who mattered most, Ethan thought about the night he'd sat alone in an expensive restaurant, waiting for nobody. He thought about the woman who'd stumbled in by mistake, who'd sat at the wrong table and changed everything. And he thought about how the best things in life were never planned, never controlled, just stumbled into, fought for, built piece by piece through honesty and fear and showing up even when it was hard. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. Maya cried. Danny walked Nora down the aisle since their father couldn't. Lily was the flower girl and took her job very seriously. They got married in the garden behind the riverside. The residents came, watched from the windows. Some of them cried. When Ethan kissed his bride, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Complete. Not because Nora completed him, but because together they'd built something neither could have built alone. At the reception, Danny gave a toast. "My sister has always been the strongest person I know. She raised me when she should have been figuring out her own life. She worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. She never complained, never quit, never stopped believing things could get better." He looked at Ethan. "And you? I was wrong about you. I thought you were just another rich guy who wanted something from her. But you proved me wrong. You showed up. You stayed. You let her be strong even when you could have made things easier. That's love. Real love. So welcome to the family. And don't mess this up or I'll hurt you." Everyone laughed. Ethan raised his glass. "I'll do my best." Nora stood up. "I want to say something too." She looked around the room at the people who'd supported them. "A year and a half ago, I ran away. I was scared and grieving and convinced I'd destroyed my life. But running away taught me something. It taught me that you can't build a life by avoiding hard things. You build it by facing them, by showing up even when you're terrified, by letting people in even when it's risky." She looked at Ethan. "You taught me that. You showed me that love isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest, about choosing each other even when it's complicated, about building something meaningful together." She raised her glass. "To building something meaningful." "To building something meaningful," everyone echoed. Later that night, Ethan and Nora stood on the balcony of their hotel room, looking out at the city. "You okay?" he asked. "Better than okay." She leaned against him. "I was just thinking about that first night, when I walked into the wrong restaurant. Best mistake you ever made." "Second best." "What's the first?" "Staying. When you asked me to sit down, I almost ran, but I stayed, and everything changed." Ethan kissed the top of her head. "What do you think your mom would say about all this?" Nora was quiet for a moment. I think she'd say she told me so, about finding someone who sees me. She knew before I did. She was smart. Yeah, she was. They stood there in comfortable silence, watching the city lights. What are you thinking? Nora asked. That I spent so many years trying to control everything, build the perfect life, the perfect business, be the perfect father, and none of it felt right until you walked in and made everything messy. She laughed. I made your life messy? In the best way. He turned her to face him. You made me remember what matters, what's real. You reminded me that perfection is boring and control is an illusion, and the best things in life are the ones you don't see coming. Like a woman sitting at the wrong table? Exactly like that. She kissed him, slow and sweet and full of promise. I love you, she said. I love you too. Inside, through the open door, they could hear Lily talking to Danny about marine biology. Could hear their laughter mixing with music from the reception still happening downstairs. This was it. This was the life Ethan had been building without knowing it. Not perfect, not controlled, just real. And for the first time in his life, that was more than enough. Years later, when people asked how they met, Nora would smile and say, I sat at the wrong table. And Ethan would add, best mistake either of us ever made. Because sometimes the wrong choice leads to exactly the right place. Sometimes getting lost is how you find what you were looking for all along. And sometimes the person you're not supposed to fall for is exactly the person you need. Not to complete you, not to fix you, just to remind you that life is messy and beautiful and worth showing up for, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That's what Ethan and Nora had built. Not a fairy tale, not a perfect love story, just two imperfect people choosing each other. Every day. Through every complication, through every fear. Building something meaningful. Together.